Hi, I'm Andi. Welcome or welcome back. I'm really happy that you're here. Today I'm doing my palette roundup for February. These are all of the palettes that I used in February, along with most of the looks. I will put in a photo up here or up here, most of the looks that I created with that palette or those palettes. 14 palettes sitting in front of me, and some of them I used with each other, but most of them I used by themselves. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Want to? The first one I used is the Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk. You're going to see this all year long. This is my fun-sized Pan That palette for 2024, so it's going to be in here every month. I'm only going to probably show you a couple of photos, one or two photos from this, because there are only 4 shades. And unless I use it with another palette, the looks are all going to look the same. There's no sense in showing you 6 looks if I use this 6 times, 6 looks with the same palette with 4 shades. It's kind of silly. There was one that I did use a dark brown outer corner, and I can't remember. I think it was from the Lunar Beauty, but I can't remember which one that was. I used this 5 times. I didn't tell you that. I used this 5 times throughout the month. Next up is the Rude Cosmetics Roaring 20s Carefree Palette. This shade right here, it's called On the Level. This shade right here is in my Pan Those Eyeshadows, which I have renamed Love Your Eyeshadows. Love Your Eyeshadows Project Pan. So I used different shades in this palette just to, complement that shade right there. So I did use this twice. I felt like I used it more than that. Maybe I didn't take a picture. I feel like I used it more than that. Just saying. I feel like I did. I might have. I feel like I was reaching for it quite a bit. Next up, one of the times I used that, I used the Essence That's Taupe. And this is what that looks like. This was in one of my projects. I think it was Deca Panning. Let me tell you what. These little palettes, these are Essence. These little palettes are such great little palettes. They're $3.99. I got them buy 2, get 1 free. I think they are the greatest little palettes. They're nice and pigmented. I mean, they're not the best quality I've ever used in my entire life, but they're really nice. And I have all of them but one, I think, and I have really enjoyed them. I think there's one that has pinks in it that I didn't get. I have the mauve one, which looks more purple, but there's one other that I don't have. And let's see. Wicked Widow. This was the surprise of the month. Wicked Widow Graveyard Smash. I got this in an ice cream beauty box. I canceled my ice cream box because I wasn't overly enamored with the things that I got in it. What's going on back here? You guys, I blew out my hair. And then we went to dinner and went grocery shopping, and it's raining out. So it's doing some weird stuff. It's a little frizzy. They had another Wicked Widow for Valentine's Day. And in the ice cream beauty box. And it's a $40 palette. I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to spend $40 on a palette for 2 duochromes. But let me tell you what, this duochrome right here is freaking fantastic. So the first picture I have is the brown and this, and then I think I used a dark brown in the outer corner. And then the other one I think is purple? I can't remember now. Oh no, it was green. It was green. I used the purples last month. It was a green look that I did, and it was really bright green. And I used it with the Dancing Green from Essence also. Again, was super impressed with this little palette. I used this twice. Going back to this, this was such a surprise. I don't know why it was a surprise, but it was a surprise. Such amazing. This shade right here. I can't stop. Look at that. I can't stop with it. Look at that. And it really did transform with what I was wearing it with. All right, moving on. The next palette is the ColourPop Stone Cold Fox palette. My love, I adore this palette. I don't remember what shades I used because I used this a lot in January. This was one of the palettes that I was working on for my No Pan Left Behind. That's a big one to do No Pan Left Behind. So you'll have to tune in April to see if I met that goal. Let's see. We have the Beauty Bay Neutral palette. Again, another favorite of mine. I love it. Love it. Used that once this past month. I had to grab it off my shelf. I just had to use it. Next up is the Juvias Place Chocolates palette. I only used this once. I do have a video, and I will link it up in the cards, where this was a dark brown shade, and I took it out, and I frankened a couple things together to make this shade right here. It is such a beautiful light shimmer shade. Can you see it? It's right there. I loved this look. I was going to declutter this palette. I wanted to give it another chance. I wanted to change it up, refresh it a little bit, revamp it, and before I decluttered it. And I am so happy that I didn't, because I think I used every shade in that look. I think I used every shade, and I loved it. I think it was a work look, which that's sad because that means it was wasted at work. The next palette that I used, and I used this twice, was the Natasha Denona Retro palette. This was in my, I want to say, Panning Cats and Dogs. I think it was Panning Cats and Dogs. I had to use it No Pan Left Behind. And so with the last couple months, I've been using this quite a bit. It's such a beautiful palette. And I feel like, I did several looks with it, and I feel like all of them looked different. So I like that. I like that in a palette. I want it to be cohesive, but I still want to do different looks in the palette. Does that make sense? Next up was Valentine's Day. I used the Morphe 9V. Love this palette. I used that for a pretty pink Valentine's Day look. I have my pink sweater on. I think that's the only thing that I own that's pink. I might have a couple other shirts. I might. But it was it was date night. So I wanted to be all pretty. And then we have the BH Zodiac palette. I used this in a collab with Charlie. This is what the outside looks like. This is the original Zodiac. And I really love the look that I created with this. I'm probably going to bring it back out and finish it up as far as like the No Pan Left Behind. I just did that one look with it, but I had forgotten how much I love it. And I was so happy that Charlie recommended this palette for our collab so that I could fall in love with it again. Next up was also a collab, and it is the Cosmic Beauty / Cosmic Brushes. They're changing their name. Gothic palette. You guys. This palette, I'm trying to hold it so it's not awkward, but it's still awkward. This palette is everything that I thought it would be. It was an effortless look, and I love the look that I created with it. Very purple, very in-your-face purple. Loved it. This was my collab with Leanna Dalton. Did I say that? Collab with Leanna, our monthly collab. I used that. Next up was the SHANAB Miami palette. This is what it looks like. And this is the color story. This shade right here is in my Love Your Eyeshadows project. And so I have been using it quite a bit as a lid setting shade, but I decided to go ahead and do an entire look with this palette, and I really liked it. It makes me excited to use the SHANAB Miami Nights. I did pull that for my Shop My Stash this month. And then lastly, I use the Lunar Beauty Lunar Beauty Nude Prism palette. It's a beautiful neutral palette. And I had used this a couple of months ago. And I love these shimmers in here. That middle row there, those shimmers are just beautiful. Some of them are more of a topper and some of them are a true shimmer, but they're gorgeous. And there are so many different looks that you can make with this palette. There are warm neutrals. There are cool neutrals. There are like the pinky, peachy neutrals. It's just so beautiful. And I love it. I love this palette. I really do. So those are all of the palettes that I used in the month of February. Let me know in the comments below if you have any of these palettes, if you love them, if you don't love them, what you think. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you being here. And until our next adventure, everyone have a great day, and we'll see you later.